Welcome back to the archives for the final round, round 7 of the National Open in Las Vegas. In this round, I had the black pieces against Vincent Chin, who was rated 1786 at the time. He broke 1800 with this tournament, and he was a pretty strong player, a young player. He played e4, and I've played a couple of Sicilians already in this tournament, so I decided to go back to the trusty French, trying to make sure I've got a couple of weapons in my back pocket. And we get a French advance, so I was pretty happy to see this. They played the a3 line, where black is supposed to play c4. I know black's supposed to play c4, but that doesn't necessarily make it easy to really claim any kind of advantage or counterplay. Really, we're shutting down white's play over here. We're trying to control b3. But I find these positions challenging to play from both sides. White continues their development, and I knew I was supposed to go ahead and play knight a5 right away. And then bishop d7, they castle, and I played bishop to e7. The main move here is knight to e7. Going ahead and getting to f5 as quickly as possible. That would have been better because the bishop just isn't doing anything on e7. It's developing, but not developing with any purpose. So we continue on. Not a super exciting opening. I go ahead and queenside castle, and I have to say that I was not fully into this game. I was basically done with the tournament. I was playing a little bit faster than I should have, and I really wasn't taking my time to fully think about the position. Now, it's not really an excuse or any blunders or anything like that, but I definitely wasn't thinking about any of my moves deeply. And as a result, I made this trade pretty automatically, thinking that I'm getting rid of my bad bishop. But I think it might have been better for me to wait, maybe even queen to c6 here. In this position, it's equal, maybe even slightly better for black. The computer does like me capturing, but I wasn't able to do anything with it. So I captured, they recaptured, jumped my knight into f5, and they played rook to b1, and I thought, okay, they're going to push this b-pawn, they're going to try and open things up. So I wanted to open things up on the king side first. So I'm trying to play on the king side, they're trying to play on the queen side, and I didn't think my weak e6 pawn would matter, which is why I played f6, but it becomes a problem later in the game. So I continue to play on the king side, and my opponent plays b3, and in my head, I had only expected to move b4, and I thought, okay, they play b4, I back my knight up, keep things closed. But after the move b3, I can't keep things closed, because either they're going to capture on c4 or I need to capture on b3. Either way, the files are going to start to open. So I captured once, captured twice, moved my queen, and then I decided, all right, queen side hasn't gone great. I need to go ahead and play on the king side. So I throw up these pawns, and we reach this position right here, where white has control of the b file. My queen's on a relatively good square. I felt like I've got some pressure on the king side, even though I can't really advance either of the pawns at the moment without white locking it up. But I also have this weakness on e6. At this point, the position, equal. Just equal. And that's kind of what I thought at the time. I thought we both had chances on either side, but I didn't think there was any big advantage. He backs his knight up, and I try to start getting ready to play on the king side. The problem again, though, is that I can't really force through either of these pawn moves, so I don't think my pressure on the king side is as real as I had hoped. And then I make the move rook to c7, and I think this move was a mistake. I was thinking that I would try and control this c4 square, maybe get the rook there and go over to the a file at some point. But after the move rook to e1, now I just had to move my rook back to defend. And at this point, white now has an advantage of about a point. And the best move here is to go back and defend. So now I could feel the position start to slip away. I was up on time since I was playing faster than I should have. And my opponent was taking their time and really making sure they put in a good effort for the final round. So we make this exchange, and I push e5, trying to open the center further, get rid of my bad pawn. And I attack h3, and I thought in this position that I had some chances on the king side again. And I thought they could try a few different things. I thought they might continue to play on the queen side. I thought they might move their king or move one of the pawns. And I was always worried about them pushing h4. Not in this exact position, but it was always a concern that they were going to push h4 and I was going to have some trouble defending things. Like if we back up a few moves to like this position, right here, I thought h4 might have been possible. But going forward, they played the move queen to g2, and I think that was just a really nice move by my opponent to go ahead and defend the pawn but not commit to anything. And I had trouble coming up with moves in this position. In this position, it's only a slight advantage for white. The computer actually says that white is close to winning if they just ignore my threat on h3 and play rook to b5. But I don't think that's such an easy thing to do. I guess at the moment, I'm not actually threatening the pawn because my bishop would fall. So I play a6, and this proves to be pretty much fatal. This allows their rook to come in. I could not come up with another good move here. The computer suggests that I play a6. They say that is the best move in the position, but it really leads to a tough position for me to play. So after a6 and rook to b6, I back my queen up to f7, and the only saving move I have is queen to f5, which at the time I didn't think was any good. I thought they would play g4, and after h takes, I'm supposed to run my queen into d3. And at the time, I was looking at queen to g3, which would drop this pawn. But if my queen runs up the board, it looks like I can hang on to my pawn, which is risky, but it would have been better than what happened. I went back to f7, and now they go after my d-pawn, and things start trading, and there's not really any way for me to stop it. And so I get to this position. I'm now down a pawn, same colored bishops, no more rooks on the board, and I play the move queen to c6 and offer a draw, thinking that this position might be holdable in the same colored bishop endgame. In this position, I am still holding, or close to it, if I keep my queen active. And so I just misevaluated this endgame, thinking that I had chances if the queens came off. And my opponent plays really nicely and proves that I don't have any chances. So after the queen trade, it is pretty much over with good technique. And so let's see how my opponent does it. You're going to see that, again, my opponent takes their time in a bishop endgame, just like we saw earlier in the tournament. And they get their passed pawn. And we get this position where none of these four pawns want to move because they'll be moving onto a dark square. And that's a problem for me because my king is busy trying to stop their pawn. So I'm not going to really be able to keep their king away from getting in and taking my king side pawns, or the queen side pawns. And that's really the problem, is that I have two sets of pawns on the queen side still. So it's not enough for me to simply stop the g pawn. I have to stop the g pawn and defend my c and a pawns. And that's what I misevaluated, was how hard it would be to do both of those. So I try to keep their king out, but they just start advancing their pawn, and then they offer the bishop trade, which allows them to advance again. And now with this move, my king is now far enough away that it's not possible for me to stop their king from coming in. So we do some maneuvering here. I'm trying to keep their king from getting in. They block my bishop. Still completely winning, and then they find this nice idea where they promote, and that lets their king get in. I think if they try and hold on to this pawn, it's going to be very challenging for them to win. But once they get rid of that pawn, their king gets to walk across, takes my c pawn, and unfortunately, this position was what I thought I could get because they've got the wrong colored bishop for the corner, but that actually doesn't matter if my king can't get to the corner. So now we've got a position where the bishop color does not match the corner, but their king is in a better position than my king, so the pawn can still promote. And in this position, I resigned as I cannot stop their pawn from getting to the queening square. So really nice technique by my opponent. All credit to them. I think if I had been on the white side of this, I would have had more trouble converting it. I definitely would have given up some chances for a draw, but they really took their time and they played accurately. And as a result, they ended up finishing with the win. So not the greatest tournament for me. I finished with 2 points out of... Wait, how many points did I get? I had 1 win and 2 draws. Yeah, so 2 points out of 7. Not a great performance, but I didn't feel like I played terribly in any of the games. So kind of mixed feelings. As I look back on these games a little bit more, I would have liked myself to play with a little more patience. I had some really nice moves throughout. I felt like I was calculating pretty well. I was getting great positions out of the opening compared to earlier in the month and even last month as I came back to over the board. So there are a lot of good things to take from this tournament, but I need to be more patient, especially in those good positions. And I need to accept whenever the position, there's nothing there. I shouldn't be trying to force these wins. I tried too much to play on the king side here. I tried to win that other end game and ended up losing. And so I need to get practice playing worse end games also, because we saw me trading into bad end games in 3 different games, 2 or 3 different games. And so, or trading into bad end games or messing up the end games. So that's definitely a point that I need to work on also. Fortunately, that's all going to be included in my studies starting later this month, which I'm excited about. I'm going to be really diving in and studying more books, not just online. So I'll tell you guys more about that later. But hopefully you enjoyed these games reviews. There will be more, and I'm going to be covering all my over-the-board games, trying to keep you guys informed on how I'm doing and making sure that I've got some instructional points. And hopefully you guys can come back and learn something from these games and also, maybe point out some mistakes I'm making. Thank you for watching. Good luck in your games and your studies, and I'll see you guys next time.